Hello everyone, just another video here. The video today I'll be doing is just on the topic of why I think you should learn a language if you haven't learnt one already. I think it's a really good thing to do. I've just wrote down on my laptop a few dot points why I think it's a good idea to learn a language and why it's a really fulfilling experience. So I'm going to go through these dot points that I wrote down. Once again, I'll be doing this video maybe not half, but a little bit in Spanish and a little bit in English as well, just to practice my Spanish, I guess, and I want to be transparent as possible so everyone can hear me speak. So that's what I'll be doing. So hopefully it turns out all right. But let's get into it. I'll go through these dot points now, and hopefully people can take a few tips, and hopefully I can inspire a few people to at least give it a go, learning a language. I think as I said, it's a great experience. So yeah, hopefully I can inspire one or two people, or continue to inspire the people who are already learning one. So yeah, here it is. So the first sort of point I have here is that it's never been easier to learn a language, in my opinion, and I think most people would agree. With the internet nowadays, there's so many materials out there, especially for the bigger languages such as English, Spanish, French, and a few others as well. There's so much material out there, whether that's on YouTube or podcasts on Spotify. If you have an internet connection, you'll be able to learn these languages pretty much for free. There's so much content out there for free. You won't need to pay a cent. So I think that's really made it a lot easier for a lot of people compared to 20 years ago, where you might have to go to a class or buy an audiobook. I'm honestly not too sure how it all worked back then, but yeah, nowadays it hasn't been easier. And then you've got platforms such as Netflix, where there's so much dubbed content in different languages, subtitles in different languages, just different movies and TV shows in a whole bunch of different languages now. It's never been easier, and that's the same with sort of all the other streaming platforms, I believe, as well. Another reason why it's never been easier is there's so much information as well on how to teach yourself a language, which I think is really important. When I started out, I was going more down the traditional route, but then I actually spent some time on the internet researching what was the best method for me to learn Spanish. So that's spending time on YouTube, watching videos, just Googling, looking at different studies. So that's really important, and yeah, anyone can do that now as well with an internet connection. So you can find which sort of methodology is going to work with you best, and I really think that's a good place to start, is researching how you're going to learn your language. El siguiente punto es la experiencia de aprender un diferente idioma de tu nativo idioma. Es muy divertida, todo de experiencia. La habilidad de conectar de otras personas cuando en el pasado no habilidad de conectar de otras personas, específicamente esta persona no habla tu primer idioma. También tú abierto tu mente de diferente contenido en diferentes partes del mundo. Es una buena experiencia por cada persona. En general es una muy buena experiencia por alguna persona en alguna parte del mundo. No es todo el proceso muy fácil, pero es bueno para ti, en mi opinión. En total es una buena experiencia. El siguiente punto es cuando aprender un idioma es una muy buena experiencia y muy buen tiempo a conseguir una meta. Hay mucha gente que gusta este concepto de otros metas en tu vida. En diferentes partes de aprender un idioma, motivación es bajo algunos tiempos y es alto en otro tiempo de aprender este idioma, pero es una buena experiencia conseguir una meta. Tal vez una meta de fluidez en un idioma o tal vez una meta solamente hablar un poco, no sé, pero es muy bien. Tienes una meta en tu vida y aprender un idioma es una buena manera. Tiene una meta en tu vida. So the next dot point I have here is just about that. I believe when you learn a different language, it allows you to connect with people who speak that language on a bit of a different level that you normally would if you were just speaking English to them and English was their second language. And I think you get a little bit of a buzz from this. I remember the first time I used Spanish I was in Los Angeles, and I think from what I remember, I just asked some Mexican guy to take a photo of me and my friends. I can't remember, I think I just said, toma una foto, like something real basic. He looked at me very confused. He probably didn't even understand what I was saying because it was that bad, but it was a pretty cool experience. I felt pretty good after it. Definitely gave me a little bit of a buzz and a good feeling. So I think that feels really good when you make progress and you're able to use the language. I don't know about everyone, but I feel pretty good when I can do that. It gives me a little buzz. It's a good conversation starter when you're able to speak someone else's language. They're always interested and they kind of want to know more. I think especially when you're like myself, when you're a native English speaker and you don't really need to learn another language, but you're just doing it for fun. I find people are quite interested, which is really cool, and it's a great way to start a conversation. And just as a whole, I think people like when you speak their language. I think it shows a bit of care, and I think it shows that you're interested in their culture to some degree. So I think overall it's really nice, and it allows you to connect with people a little bit differently, which I think is really cool. So the final dot point I have here is I think it makes traveling a bit more rewarding when you can go over to a country and you've spent a year learning their language. I think that makes the experience really fulfilling. Even if you haven't learnt too much, but you've learnt how to order food at a restaurant or a few phrases, I still think that's really nice. And I think it makes it a lot more fun, the trip. I think you get yourself in a few more interesting experiences when you can speak the language a bit. It's always helpful when you go with a few friends and someone knows a bit of the language that they're speaking in that country. And obviously it'll help you improve your language skills as well, going to that country. That's a given. And as I said, it's more exciting in my opinion. So I think it's really worth. Obviously, if you're a keen traveler and you like traveling a lot, you can't learn every single language. It takes years to get to know a language really well, but maybe just pick one out and try to visit that place where they speak that language at some point in the coming years, or 5 or 10 years down the track. Maybe you can get there and give it a go. I think that's a great experience if you're able to do that. So I think that also relates to what language you want to choose. I think a big part of that is where would you like to travel. that can sort of relate to that point as well. And that was a big factor for me with Spanish, just because there were so many places that you could travel to where they speak Spanish. So that was a big factor for me. But as I said, just traveling, knowing a bit of the language, or if you know the language really well, that's great. It just makes it a whole lot more rewarding, and you can find yourself in a few funny experiences, which is great memories while you travel. Okay, so thanks for listening to those dot points. I hope that inspired a few people. I really do think it's a great experience, and I think it's something that at least everyone should give it a go. Try to give yourself maybe a few hundred hours of comprehensible input and just see where it takes you. I think that's a really good way to start off. And I think as a whole, it doesn't have to be a draining experience with your head stuck in a textbook all day. I don't think that's the case at all these days. So please give it a go, and yeah, I hope that helped a few people. Cheers.